Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream on Hail Varsity Radio with Andrew Rogers and Damon Benning.
Nice catch by Gunn. No look. Good Shafino with the three.
You want to go see your families, but you want to make sure that you stay disciplined. Woo!
There's Miller. Backdoor to Woodbury with the jam.
Wilcher for three from the top of the key. Drains it. That's a good sign.
That's a great sign for Wilcher. Has been really struggling from three. Put it in a basket. Either there or at the free throw line to get yourself going.
6 points for Dye. Inside to Walker. Walker goes to work. Nice pass to Bandamel. Oh, no look pass. Griesel to Casey.
Coffee and Cream in the morning on Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Currency. DB is laughing his head off, and
she said, "Oh, no look pass."
You like the call. You like the call.
Ooh, yeah.
That's Damon Benning, as you guys all know him. Andrew Rogers here as well. We're happy to have you with us for early signing day. And wow, what a day it's going to be. We've already seen two names pop across Twitter. That is Dwight Boodle and Ramir Stewart. Both of them have inked the line, or so I will trust Twitter in this case. I didn't actually witness any inking.
But do you believe that they're really sending faxes? I mean, we're past that, right? It's just like,
are we?
Well, I think so. Isn't it like an e-doc or
a scan? Aren't they called scans now?
Like, what are we doing? Fax. Hey, got to wait by the fax. Boy, those were the days, though. I kind of miss, like, the angst of everybody just looking at the machine. Is it here yet? Is it here yet? Is it here yet? Wait a minute.
Hey, I can't relate.
Wait a minute. It's 2:30. Hey, somebody check on Harris. Heck of a day for these high schoolers and junior college folks, man, that are going to ink their names to the next few years, at least. I think we could say that's at least one.
Right. And we have a great show planned ahead. Jaylen Lloyd hopping on at 7:15. Steve Warren at 7:30. Sam Sledge from Creighton Prep at 7:45. Brian Christopherson. We'll talk Husker recruiting with him right at the top of the hour at 8. And another Nebraska commit in Maverick Noonan. So, I mean, what else can you say, DB, other than, as you put it on Twitter, let's get it?
Yeah, let's go get it, right? My man Shane over here on the Wheels of Steel booking guests. And it's kind of frantic sometimes to get young people. Number one, they got to get up early. And most, I don't think any have school today. So,
come on, Shane.
Exactly. We do appreciate that, but it is a big day for a lot of high schoolers around the country. So I highly doubt they're sleeping in. Although maybe Jaylen, well, he's such a calm, cool, laid back customer. He may still be sleeping. I don't know.
Are you sure? Because he's hopping on in 15 minutes.
Yeah, listen. It would not be surprised if his feet just hit the floor, he jams the toothbrush in his mouth, washes the face, looks at himself in the mirror, and is like, "Okay, I'm ready." He's so soft spoken, but he's great, man. So he's got a heck of a story too. I mean, our listeners will hear it. The turnaround and kind of the transformation in his recruiting tale of. And I'll let you pick his brain, man. But a guy that is an Olympic caliber track athlete started hitting his stride on the football field and all of a sudden garnering a ton of attention. And it's like, oh, wait a minute, maybe I can do both. I don't know. I'm telling you, you're not going to believe it. Nebraska worked in a hurry. That's for sure.
I'll tell you what, if you don't run track, you can't play football at Nebraska. You have to do both.
That seems to be the case. You know, I told my kiddo, I said, if you want to have any shot at all, well, you better stay in the gym, get working.
Hey, before we keep getting down the rabbit hole, which is early signing period and recruiting, let's touch on Nebraska basketball quickly because they are the king of Queens, a real life Doug Heffernan, if you would like to call it, putting in a long day's work, getting rewarded, and now they get to run off to their holiday parties with their wacko family members, or in the show's case, the father-in-law. But no, it's exactly what we felt they needed, and Hoiberg even said something similar to that after the game. It was the perfect week of prep. They emphasized the unacceptable play in Kansas City. They broke down every bit of the film and bounce back with force to head into Big Ten play on a high note. It's how you draw it up. Yeah. And Nebraska executed 5 players in double figures. Nebraska held Queens to under 34% shooting, which was their lowest shooting percentage on the season. It goes to show how strong Nebraska's defense is and has been all season long. They held 3 straight opponents to 40% or fewer, and they shot the basketball over 50%. So all you can say is that's a perfect recipe for success.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing, right? It's they didn't shoot it as well in the second half. I mean, they got off to a torrid start in the first half. I think they were 18 of 32, and they were 5 of 15 from 3 in the first half, which is a lot of threes. Ended up shooting only 8, I think, in the second half. Finished 6 of 23 from behind the arc, but just 1 of 8 in the second half. They shot under 50% in the second half, so it made it kind of interesting for those of you playing at home. And how about Vegas, right? We said be careful. We felt like the line was about right, and it lands on 10.
Well, and you know what? DraftKings actually closed at 13.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. I saw 10.5, 11 all day, and I'm thinking to myself, there's no way I would touch that. It is like absolutely no way I could touch that. And it was I just like the fact, and Casey kind of got it going a little bit, and it was good to see Juwan Gary have some impact because he does so many little things, right? It was good to see him kind of put the biscuit in the basket a little bit, and Banamel, who is quietly starting to piece together a nice little stretch. He's their best on the ball defender. He's starting to be a little more efficient offensively, the guy that we saw at his former school in SMU. I mean, it's Queens, and I get it, and nobody's sending bouquets and pleasantries, but it's one you had to have against kind of a sneaky quality basketball team, and now you get to enjoy the holiday and get ready for the Hawkeyes.
Oh, no look pass, Griesel to Casey.
Oh, Jesse Strick on the call.
Oh, no look.
Yeah, Shane, I'm gonna because I've got to work with here later on today. Shane, play that one more time so I can chuckle to myself.
Oh, no look pass, Griesel to Casey.
Yeah, JC will not hear the end of it from old DB. That's for sure.
Hey, I saw right through that. All I saw was you laughing, and I'm like, what is he laughing at? I'm trying to set up the show.
Hey, so she's forever going to be a drop on the show. Then that's great because as a coworker, I'm sure she'll appreciate it.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Okay, Shane, stop.
Oh, no.
See, That's what happens when you deal with kiddos.
Oh,
Hey, one last point before we move on to more recruiting things. Something that I really liked about Nebraska was how they came out of the gate in this game. They ended with 43 first half points, and I know they got outscored in the second half, but when you put up a lead of 13 was it 13? Let's do math here, DB. It's a lot more than 13.
Be careful when you ask me to do math on the fly. It can be a struggle.
It would be 23. No,
Are you carrying the one in the tens place? Like, what are you doing?
I think it was 17, right? 17. I don't know. 17. We'll just say 17-point lead by halftime. But the ability to come out of the gate like that, not to say that you can really, sit back and relax just because of a first half. But in hindsight, if you put up a 17-point buffer, you can do exactly that in this game.
Yeah, and listen, again, the second half wasn't as aesthetically pleasing, but I like kind of what Coach Hoiberg said, where they came out and established what they wanted to do early, which let me know that they were ready to play, right? Because if you come out and you're kind of sluggish and you're inefficient and you're not really clicking, it's like, man, did that K-State thing really bother you? So I did like the fact that they came out with some oomph, if you will, to start that one, because I think they needed every bit of that to let themselves know that they rewarded themselves for how I bet he got after him in practice. Because, I mean, listen, he used the phrase, they got their ass kicked. And when coaches go there and they're talking to their team, that is, trust me, and that's nothing you want to hear. When your coaches kind of question your team's toughness and your fortitude, and man, it gets in your loins, as the old folks like to say.
Thank you, guys.
It's what you like to say?
Loins.
Hey, good coaches take things
in your innards there. It'll hurt you.
Good coaches take things like that personally, though. And speaking of good coaches, how about Matt Rule and the way he's been able to recruit early on throughout this process? And I always go back to what he said back at Baylor when he said recruiting is not about rankings. Recruiting is not what people say it is. Recruiting is finding people who can play, putting them in the right positions, and developing them. If you look up and down the 22, 23 players that have, verbally committed at this point, though all 24 or 22, whatever I just said there, fit that bill. Every single one of them. And yes, he has some 4 stars there. He's got a handful of 3 stars, but he also has players that aren't even starred. And how much do you look into the stars? Obviously not too much when you're Matt Rule. Matt Rule finds ways to develop no matter who the player is, because he sees promise over actual star ability that's being labeled upon a player because of what somebody else says.
And how about quietly? Like, if you take a look at where they are potentially from a recruiting standpoint, he's addressed some needs on defense, even up front with the interior. And we'll see how they close out today in the early period. But I think he's basically down to what, like O-line and wide receivers. I think that's kind of the need right now. And you knew O-line, but gosh, they address some holes and
a lot of in-state guys
that I think they had defensively. So I think that's really interesting, especially on a day where, I don't know, if you're just leaving the house, and good morning to all you fine folks, and appreciate you joining us on Coffee and Cream. A lot of snow days, Andrew. I mean, I know we're split this week because you're in St. Louis with the fam, but LPS is no school, Omaha Public Schools, Bellevue Public Schools. Where are our kiddos going to sign? I mean, would you open up the building for a signing day when the majority of your student population is not at school?
I would, if it wasn't like, detrimental weather outside. If the weather was so bad to where you could not open up the school, I get it, right? It just kind of is one of those things you just have to work toward because nobody can control the weather. But in this case, based on what I've been hearing from you, And you would not bring up this point if the weather was so poor over in Omaha right now.
Yeah.
I would say open it up.
Drew down. It's the anti-Folgers. There's not a drop. Folgers was good to the last drop. It is now. It's early. What time is it? 7, 10, whatever. I should know.
Every morning.
I know, man. You just never know with your guy. But nothing yet. I don't know what time it's coming, but man, I know there's some kiddos that are looking out today and they're saying, "Wait, what? What, huh?" But hold that thought. It's a long day ahead. We'll see. The weather can be fickle.
I'll tell you what, though. It is. I really feel for some of these high school kiddos because this is a moment they've dreamed of for a long period of time. You wanted to do it in front of some of your best friends and the rest of your school community, and seeing news like this just puts a damper on the mood. I get it. I really feel for them, but know that no matter what, you're going to have a great story.
Yeah.
No matter what it is, you could sign at home and be like, if people ask you about it at a later time, like, hey, what was it like signing your paper in front of all these people? And you can say like, well, we were supposed to. And then all of a sudden Dr. Blizzard came in and then we had to cancel school because, we had to prepare for this. And then no weather hit the town. And so I got to do it with my family at home. We did it over, Instagram Live, whatever it is. It was still a great story, but it wasn't how it was supposed to be written.
Yeah, and listen, I get it, right? I was with our athletic director all day yesterday in Kansas City as Omaha Westside boys and girls had hoops, talking to district people, checking with Offutt and Epley to get forecasts because you can't be wrong, talking with all the athletic directors on conference calls on the way down, just trying to make sure that they get it right and it's above their pay grade and all the things, Andrew, that they have to think about. It's the holiday tournament and that got postponed, so they're going to play 4 games in 4 days, and because there's the moratorium in the metro, and they were worried about signing day and the athletes, and do you open up the building, do you not? I mean, there's a lot going on when Mother Nature starts to flex on you, because I think parents and administrators, they want to get it right for the safety of their kids. And so I think that's something that you got to think about, because sometimes you're going to be damned if you do and damned if you don't.
Talk about test review here. And let's drop back on a lot of the people, a lot of the names that are a part of today's signing day. You have 3 Florida transfers. 2 are 4 stars, both on defense, a linebacker and a corner. You have 1 portal quarterback who is a 4-star from Georgia Tech. That's Jeff Sims. You have 19 high school commits, 7 in-state, 2 4-star on defense. The rest are 3 except for Ives. And one of those 3-star athletes are here with us right now. Jaylen Lloyd on the phone, a West Side guy, DB. Jaylen, good morning. Hopefully you just didn't roll out of bed like DB was predicting, but we're happy to have you here.
Good morning.
Hey, Hey, there's that silky smooth voice, man. Congratulations. How you feeling?
Thank you. I'm feeling good.
So soft-spoken for our listeners at home. I was trying to explain the story to Andrew, so I'll let you tell it. How did we get here in roughly what I would say is about 6 short weeks? Like, quickly walk us through the recruiting process and what happened.
Well, I was supposed to be signing. I mean, that's committing. I can't remember. Friday it was.
Yeah, 3 days. I think it was December 10th, maybe.
Yeah, sounds about right. And I got the flu, which some people don't believe, but it was true. I did get sick. So I couldn't talk, so I had to reschedule that. And it just so happened that the same day, Coach Rule and his staff reached out to my family and wanted to offer me. So that changed everything. Then me deciding to go to Nebraska really didn't happen until the official visit.
What was it about the visit?
It was just the coach coaching staff just felt like a family, and Nebraska felt like home. There's a lot of places I went to that felt like it just gave me this weird, like almost a homesick feeling.
Jaylen, you had a former Husker and Green Bay Packer, Steve Warren, Heisman Trophy winner, Johnny the Jet Rogers, also coming to see you making it big time. What did it mean to have those icons show up on your big day?
That was crazy. I actually seen Johnny Rogers walking in. I don't even know if he knew that was me when he first walked in. But people like that's what I want to set out to be. I want to be another part of the legacy that I was developing.
Yeah, with your mom being such a track icon up there, and your dad going to school there, was that how much your personality doesn't seem like that would sway you, but when the opportunity presented itself, did it?
I wouldn't say that is what swayed me, but it definitely was. It definitely was part of it.
Talk to me a little bit about, or walk us through, the big decision to leave Omaha Central, where your dad was your track coach. You're an Olympic caliber track athlete. A lot went into that to make the decision to come to Westside, because you wanted to develop your football career too. How scary was that?
Yeah, that was really scary. I didn't know a lot about Westside. My family did know Steve Gordon, so that was a major reason to come to Westside. We knew a coach over there, and we knew that he's a good coach. They didn't want to just send me to a random coach with a talent. And we know that the football team was really good. We didn't really transfer to win, but to transfer to get better opportunities on the football field. So that's what we did.
Jaylen, talk about just today for you. Like, as you sit back and reflect, how long have you been dreaming about a day like today?
I haven't really just sat down and having everything back so fast.
Jaylen, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you can go.
Oh, okay. Hey, so real quick before we let you get out of here, we're going to talk to Steve in a little bit, and obviously you train and you train there. You work on your football skills, running techniques. We know you're an Olympic caliber track athlete. At what point did you know that you wanted to at least try to do both, or that you liked football more than maybe the casual fan may think?
I would actually say for 7th grade. I actually thought I was better at football than track. I was really close to giving track, because it was like my body was like not developed yet and wasn't producing in track. It was hard. But then like freshman year, I started better at track, and then I couldn't keep up.
But people forget out there, just a 17-year-old graduating senior.
How about that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, one last thing before we let you go, Jaylen. Hey, you're playing with your teammate Tristan Alvano, and you guys go way back together. What's it like going to Nebraska together and continuing this friendship long term?
It's crazy. Actually, when I first came to West, I didn't even know Tristan was there until we had a summer workout.
Yeah.
He came to me. He was like, "Do you remember Coach Hepburn?" And I just like stopped, looked at him, and he did not look the same from when he was little. He got huge.
Unbelievable. Only you, J-Dub. Only you. Like, you just do you, man. I am so proud of you, man. Congratulations. It's a heck of a story. You know, I'll fill our listeners in on as much as I can today, but an unbelievable journey and quite the closing job by Nebraska for somebody that doesn't give you a whole lot to go on. Jaylen, I'm proud of you, buddy.
Thank you.
Hey, Jaylen, we'll talk to you later, man.
Yes, sir.
Hey, DB, before we go to break here, our poll question of the day: with early signing day upon us, how would you grade Matt Rule's recruiting job so far? An A, a B, a C, or a D/F? You can vote at HVarsity Radio there. Coming up next, though, we are speaking with Steve Warren, Husker Hall of Famer and founder of the Warren Academy. He's next on Coffee and Cream, powered by Currency.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 5 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
Hey, what a wonderful signing day. Alongside Damon Benning, Andrew Rogers, it's Coffee and Cream in the morning on Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Currency. And we have a loaded show. Lots of guests to talk about a lot of these recruits, these commits. And on the phone right now is one that can do just that. Steve Warren, Husker Hall of Famer and founder of Warren Academy. Steve, good morning.
Good morning, fellas. How you guys doing?
Whoa, good morning, man. There's that voice. Hey, good morning, fellas. How you guys doing? What's up, big
It's
time?
early.
Hey, listen, you got great kids of your own, but how much, be honest, man, how much do you feel like a proud papa today seeing all your guys roll? We've only scratched the surface with just a few that are going to be on this show. I mean, the stable is full.
It's fun, man. I look back and what we've done over the last 15 years and what we're still doing now is pretty amazing. And sometimes I just barely remember that we're having some of these things because we're so one-minded and on to the next one. But it's always special.
Hey, Steve, not only are you proud of these young men and how they've developed to get to this point, but, you really make it a point in your life to make them a part of your family no matter what. We just got done talking to Jaylen Lloyd, and I asked him a question regarding you showing up to his commitment. So with all of that, being said, like, why do you do it? Like, what inspires you to, help all of the young talent, especially in town?
Well, Jalen's a little bit different. His father and mother have been friends of mine since I was a kid, 18 years old, and his dad was my roommate. His dad runs our speed and agility program, and I've known that kid since he was in the womb. So it was a little bit different, but man, that's just how we operate. Like, once you get down with us, you're with us, and we're family, and that's how we treat you, and that's how we want to be treated. And it's more than football. It's really about life and us being able to pour into kids and give our experiences and our knowledge and pay it forward.
See, it's interesting as you kind of watch guys and they come to you. You play in a lot of different worlds, but they're all connected, right? Where you train, you skill position train, you can strength train, you also do 7-on-7. But as a guy that was really good playing 11-on-11, you have an eye for what actually is functional. Is that been kind of your key in terms of why folks trust you? Because a lot of guys can run, a lot of guys can jump. Some guys are good at 7-on-7 and can't play a lick. Like, how do you make it all blend together under one roof?
I mean, we have great coaches. I mean, we have phenomenal coaches. Like, our strength staff is great. We've got speed coaches that are great. Our football coaches, man, our lineup of coaches is like no other. For guys that know football and can teach it, it's not about me at all. And I kind of hate that the name is Warren Academy, because I don't want people to think that I made this all about me, because I didn't. I made it about the family and the people I'm connected with, and that's what we're really trying to do, is take those connections that I've created over time and be able to pour those out into other kids and connect them with other people. So really, Warren Academy is about connecting. It's about being a connector. And I've been able to connect people that can help people. And so, I heard Dion always talks about a change agent, and that's what Warren Academy is. We're change agents. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to change people's paths, trying to help them get a better understanding of who they are, so they can go out and excel and be successful.
If you're just joining us, we're speaking to Steve Warren, Husker Hall of Famer and founder of Warren Academy. You can toss him a follow at Steve_Warren96 on Twitter. Steve, DB brought up 7v7, which is a big part about what you do over at the Warren Academy. But, it also had me thinking too. Nebraska, has 8-man football and a bunch of different levels all the way up to 11. But no matter what, no matter if it's 11, no matter if it's 8, no matter if it's 7, and you put those 7 guys up against some of the best in the nation. But how does that get these young men ready, college ready in particular?
The one thing we tell our kids when they come to us is we're not a 7-on-7 organization. We really 7-on-7 is probably our least liked thing that we do. Like, we love football, so we use 7-on-7 as a tool to develop kids for the fall. We could really care less about really 7-on-7 itself, because the whole culture for us is a little bit toxic, and we're not a 7-on-7 organization. We're a football organization. So if you come play 7-on-7 for us, understand that it's not about 7-on-7. It's about having you prepared for the fall. It's about development. So we're going to teach you how to play the game through 7-on-7, and you're able to apply the reps in a game situation. But it's all about the fall. It's all about development.
Yeah. So the aforementioned, obviously, with Lloyd and Sam Sledge, who we'll talk to here shortly, and Maverick Noonan, Dema. You've got a ton. Flores, Rezak, K-Line out at Bellevue West. It just on and on. How do you feel? Because I'm old school, and I know you have a super old soul where guys can train together, hang out together, and then, on a Thursday or Friday night, it's not about them. You're going to line up and play against somebody else that you probably just hung out with on a Tuesday. How does that work for your old soul?
I love it. I mean, because it's about the battle, right? We can be friends after the game, and we're going to be friends after the game. But
I'm watching Tyson Terry train with Maverick Noonan, right? And they're competing for that position, for top dog at that position.
Yeah, and you know what? And they love doing it. But our tag is iron sharpens iron, right?
And sometimes you get sparks.
That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. Is when you come into our environment, it's going to be like a college environment, because you're going to be surrounded by dudes. And if you don't like that, like if you need to be the man and you need to have all the attention, we're not the place to be. We're not, because we're not about that. We're about everybody getting better and everybody helping everybody else get better. And when we get on the field, we all want to win and we all want to cut each other's throat. But after the game, we're all going to hug and love each other too.
You bring up a great point there, and I'm happy DB started to sprinkle in some of the names that we'll be talking to today, but also a lot of familiar names for you. I know our listeners are highly interested in a lot of these recruits, but don't have the backstories that DB may have or you may have, Steve. So can you fill us in at all a little extra on what you've liked about whether it's just a few of the guys that are signing today or as many as you'd like?
I mean, just to take the show today is, I tweeted out, haters are going to say this is fake, but Jaylen Lloyd is family, right? Sam Sledge is family. Maverick Noonan is family. They all train with us in one capacity or another. Sam through Creighton Prep, we run their strength and conditioning program. Maverick is family. His dad was my strength and conditioning coach. I've already talked about Jaylen, but the stories are crazy. Like, Zane Flores has been training with us since he was a little kid, and we're doing the Development Academy, our passing league academy for youth kids. And I'm using his youth photo right now because I ran across it 2 days ago when he was like 12, training with us.
And he was dicing up Caleb's team. Yeah, I remember.
It's amazing. I mean, there's so many kids that are signing today, and they're going to sign in the next few weeks and months. We had almost 70 kids on All-State, All-Metro, Super State teams this year that have come through the program in one capacity or another. Like, there's so many kids that we can't. I hate saying names because I'm going to forget somebody.
Yeah.
And it's not about one kid or another. It's about all of them.
Well, you're getting ready to add another a 2-time All Nebraska one because we got to get this guy ready to go, man. So he's
Let's get him.
gonna be in no better hands, and I got to take a moment just because, and maybe proud isn't the word because we're peers, but I think I can be proud of the fact. I think one of my favorite things about you is, yeah, you get a lot of accolades and people say your last name all the time because it's associated with the academy. But I think one of your best attributes is your Teflon. You don't seem to waver with all the extra out there. You just stay dialed in to what it is that you do and let the noise just be noise. That's probably my favorite.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. Some of the there's so much of the culture that's fake now, and there's so much smoke and mirrors that it bothers me because I know, like, at the end of the day, kids are going to be hurt by it. And I know what we do helps kids. And parents don't know and kids don't know, and they have to find out the hard way sometimes. And sometimes it's too late when they come to us and be like, man, I should have had them with you. It's like, yeah, we know. And we're not for every kid. We're not for every kid, and sometimes they have to figure that out. But, we just think about what we do and we stay tuned in to stay dialed in, like you say, to what we do. And it's what we do works, and the proof is in the pudding.
My man, appreciate you.
Steve, thanks so much.
Appreciate you guys.
Yes, sir.
Hey, coming up next, Sam Sledge on Hail Varsity Radio.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
And we are back, Coffee and Cream in the morning on Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Currency. Damon Benning, Andrew Rogers. We appreciate you joining us here on early signing day. And it's a great day to pay honor to a lot of the various high school commits in our area. And one in particular is on the phone right now. It's Sam Sledge. He is an offensive line commit out of Creighton Prep. Sam, good morning.
Good morning, guys. How are you doing?
Good.
Hey, fantastic.
Sam, it's probably a bigger deal for me to talk to you than it is for you to talk to us. I'm just going to go ahead and get that out right away, man. You know your family. I have loved your game from afar, and when you're not playing against us, I am cheering my brains out for you, man. So on a super personal note, man, congratulations. Seriously.
Thank you. That's awesome.
Hey, Sam, what's it like being part of such a heavy in-state class?
It's pretty awesome. It was fun meeting the guys on every recruiting trip, and then it's fun also playing against them on Friday nights.
Yeah, I tell people, and your dad kind of has this too. He's a good-looking big guy. He's got that smile, and you think he's kind of like everything's kind of easy going, man. But then you compete against him, and you're watching him, and it's like, ooh, not all that nice, right? Like that has to be where you got that from, right? Because this good-looking, strong kid, but just a terror, like once the whistle blows. You got to walk us through like where that came from, and is that because of how you were raised?
Yeah, that's most definitely how I was raised by him. I went to every practice, saw how he coached, saw the intensity he brought, and I just knew I needed to bring that once I got into high school.
Sam, speaking of your pops, as a legacy to the program, what does it mean to you to play for his old team and the team that you grew up loving and adoring?
Yeah, it's awesome. Just going down there when I was a little kid and now being able to play there, it's truly awesome, and it's kind of fun to follow in his footsteps.
Sam, let me ask you something, because you're super competitive. And like I said, between those white lines, like you take it to a different level. You train with a lot of guys that you play against, right? But pretty good natured while you're doing it. How and where do you draw the line between, okay, I'm getting better training with these guys, but when we play against each other, it's a whole different ball game?
Yeah, I feel like it's just kind of a switch you have to flip once you get on the field. You just have to bring that extra intensity and extra newness. And, it's okay to put someone on the ground when you're playing against them on Friday nights. But, when you're training with them, you just got to keep them safe.
Sam, your story to how you became a lineman is a little bit different because, you bounce out of middle school, commanding an offense, and then you step foot on the football field at Creighton Prep, and you're expecting to be catching passes this time from the tight end position. And then, when your team needed you, you stepped up in a big way and you ran with that opportunity to, hop on the line at Creighton Prep. With that being said, where do you envision yourself on the Huskers line? And are you opposed to maybe getting out of your comfort zone a little bit if they ask you to play a different position on the line that you're not, used to?
Yeah, I'm not opposed at all. I can move inside, outside. I move defense if they really want me to. Just anywhere they want to put me. I'm glad to do that for them.
Because I'm assuming it just boils down to you just wanting to play, right?
Exactly, yeah. You just want to get on the field as quick as possible and do the best for your team.
Sam, you play for one of the all-time likable guys, I think, in the Metro, in Coach Young. A tremendous person. I drove down to Kansas City yesterday with our athletic director, Tom Kirkman, who is obviously, a good friends with Tim and I, and it was weird. We're just driving in the car, and a couple of West Side guys and the prep guys dominating the conversation. I just take a sec just to kind of describe the relationship, kind of his leadership, the staff that he's put together. Because I think, and it's not just because he's a former Husker, he's always treated me with respect. I think he's for other people about Coach Yonk and what he's trying to do at Creighton Prep.
Yeah, Coach Yonk he's like a dad to me, first of all, and he's just coached me not even on football, just about life, my whole life. I've known him since I've been probably 4 or 5 years old.
Yeah.
And being able to play for him was awesome. But he just has great leadership, great qualities all across the board. And the other coaches at Prep, Coach Moose, Coach Fife, Coach Hennings, the defensive line, and my dad. I mean, those are all great guys and all great coaches, and you just feel how they care about you and they want you to do your best on and off the field.
Hey, going back to when you shifted over to the line, you mentioned your dad. How beneficial was it to have him in your back pocket when it came to you overcoming the learning curve of that position?
Yeah, it was. I mean, I had to learn it in 1 week. I switched either the second or third game of the season my sophomore year. So, I mean, at home the whole week, I was just trying to learn every play and everything just so I could be able to play. And I got in that game, and I feel like I knew everything. It's just always easy after games, watching film, just going to ask him easy questions or questions I don't know. He's just there to help me all the time.
Sam, such an impressive group of seniors with, Pargo Jr. and the Brown twins and Marcelino and the list goes on and on. Brandel, just a lot of your guys. How proud are you of your teammates as they're going to have post-secondary opportunities to play football as well? That's kind of a special senior group from a talent standpoint.
Yes, it was. We had a few guys get injured. Rocco, Mick Tabor, and Asher Anderson.
Yeah.
They didn't get to play. Asher didn't get to play all year, and Nick and Rocco both got hurt in the first Gretna game. So they had their seasons cut. So it was sad for them, but they stuck around and they made our teams better, even the best way they could. And all the guys going to play college, Vedral, Browns, Pargo, they're all going to do great, and they all have a hard work ethic, and they're just going to run with it wherever they go.
We're speaking with Sam Sledge, Creighton Prep, now Nebraska football offensive line commit. Sam, what do you like most about this coaching staff, especially Donovan Raiola?
Yeah, I love Coach Raiola. Ever since he came in last year, we just had a great connection, and I love the way he coaches. He brings intensity every single day, every single time you meet him. On the field, I've went to practices down there, and he gets them working. So it's going to be good.
Sam, it's almost like I'm listening to all these guys, and some I've seen recruit really like up close, right? Obviously, my household, Alvano, Lloyd. I kind of gotten to know this staff in terms of how they like to communicate, and they got all you guys down there in a quick turnaround. And they haven't really skipped a beat, or has it intensified with kind of the authenticity or the love that you're getting while they're recruiting? I mean, they made it known right away you were on their radar, and they weren't letting anything change regardless of what was going on with the staff transition. That had to make you feel pretty good.
Yeah, it just felt like, the first time meeting them, it felt like I never met, that was my 5th time meeting them. Like, nothing switched at all. They just felt like they wanted me right away. And there's just no changing. It was pretty easy switch over to the new staff.
Sam, this is a dream come true type of day for any high school kid that gets to ink his name onto a line that finally commits him to a program. And for you, have you taken any time yet to sit back and reflect on this journey at all and what's about to come?
I have not sat back and thought about it. My parents are in Arizona right now, so we had to sign over the computer. So I'll probably call them after this and just talk about it. And yeah, it's pretty exciting, but I don't know. I just need to sit back and think about it.
I'm laughing in my head. That may be the most Sledge thing ever. Your parents are in Arizona and you're here doing your thing. Like, oh man, I just chuckle. Like, it's crazy talking to you because neat is the word that I use. Just a neat family. But I want to get you out of here on this. I watch you a ton, right? The last for a while, more than 3 years, and I see your intensity, and I know you're competitive, and sometimes you don't always get the accolades I think you deserve, and some of my peers that watch football think you deserve, but you just stay the course. Be honest with me, shoot me straight. How much does that drive you? Because I know it has to.
I would say, looking at accolades, you don't always feel good about them or whatever. It's just always has a little pit in your stomach, and it makes you work out or work harder, and always on a field, it just drives you a little bit harder. And, not getting those, it just makes me work harder. I don't know what to say.
I know what you're saying without saying it.
Yeah.
I love it, man. I'm looking forward to watching you play, man. A terror on the good side. Congratulations.
Good luck to you, Sam.
Thank you.
Ryan Christopherson is next.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning. We'll be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream on Hail Varsity Radio with Andrew Rogers and Damon Benning.
We are back. Coffee and Cream in the morning on Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Currency. Top of the hour, 8 a.m. Good morning if you are just joining us, but DB and I have been up since about 5 a.m. this morning, but we're happy to do that in order to give you the best coverage possible for early signing day. And I find it hard to believe if Brian Christopherson, who's on the phone right now with us, hasn't been up just as early to make sure he's been following along to a T. Senior writer for Husker247.com. Brian, good morning.
Good morning, guys. Yeah, you beat me if you got up at 5 a.m. by about an hour.
You know what? I kind of feel good about that because I figured you're like, that's pretty good though. 6 a.m. on a day like this when you're like, the fake fax machines or the e-docs or whatever the kids are doing, BC I don't think are rolling in, although we have a couple of East Coasters, but you got Cornelius and Ngoi and Coleman. I think Benny is 1. Malachi is 10:45. Cornelius is this afternoon. Like, how big or key? I feel like it's as a swing state day in politics, right? Like, a couple of yeses dramatically changed the course of this day.
Yeah, that's true. It definitely shifts the perception on signing day if you add a couple as opposed to subtract a couple. And I think Nebraska is going to finish well. Malachi's obviously said he's going to announce later this morning, at least last I heard. So that one will be interesting. Vincent Carroll Jackson is a guy I'm watching this week.
Yeah.
Elijah Judy, I don't know for sure if that'll come today or later, but that's one I'm watching. So, I mean, those are some pretty good names, just to name a few that I think could still Nebraska's way.
Hey, Brian, fill in the blank. Malachi Coleman is headed to...
I think it's going to be Nebraska. At this point, I'm always of the mind, let the kid just say it and we can react then. But it feels like the tea leaves are sort of in that direction from what we've been hearing. But we'll know in a few hours. And I think Matt Rule did a really good job closing out late in the process with him. He got in the home and visited him and the family the first day he could. And they really liked just how personable and down to earth he was. And I think that went a long way.
Hey, so BC, what do you think? Because remember with Benny, and I'll just take him in particular because he's one that sticks in my mind of a guy and talking to Coach Rule that he like pinpointed. He's telling me, hey, he's like this guy. I could see him doing this. He has these skill sets. And this is a guy. And remember, he went to Lincoln High early in his tenure. So let's stay right there. What do you think it is about what this staff has either done or said that's allowed them to get guys? It's been a long time Iowa State commit. And trust me, Iowa State is good at what they do when it comes to recruiting to even entertain the option on signing day. Like, it's not just Benny, but that's a good isolated example. Like, what do you think it's been?
Well, I think he's got a track record, Matt Rule, where he can say, look, I took players at Temple and Baylor, who sometimes in certain cases were under the radar, and they're in the league now. Just check it out and look at the data, and you'll find we've produced and developed guys. And I think that's really something that players look at as they're deciding in these last few weeks and say, I want to go somewhere where coaches have proof in the pudding that they've been able to develop guys, that those guys are actually playing on Sundays. And then you've got to have that personality that just fits well in the living room and where you can converse and connect with the family. And I think Matt Rule sort of has that. That's my initial impression of him. So I think he's one of those guys who, when he walks in and sits in front of you, the first half hour or whatever, you're going to say, I like that guy. I'm interested to hear more of what he has to say. So he obviously did a good job to get close with Benny, but credit Iowa State. They hung in there, and they've done well in Nebraska too, getting Benny and Ben Bramer. Those are two great prospects to take out of this state.
We're speaking with Brian Christopherson, senior writer for Husker247.com. You can toss him a follow on Twitter at Husker247BC. Brian, we just got done talking to Sam Sledge. He's one of a handful of native Nebraska linemen. I think that's a great way to put that. But based on what you've seen from the past recruiting cycles, how good of a job did Matt Rule do, and not just him, but the rest of his staff do, to really hit the in-state recruits hard in regards to filling up the offensive line and defensive line for that?
Yeah, they did a good job there. You also got to credit the past staff too on that one. I mean,
for sure.
They had some of these guys committed before, and especially on the line. And you know, you have to get the guys in the trenches in this state. There's some good talent here, and then you just got to make them good players over the next 2 or 3 years once you get them in the program. So I think that's a key storyline today is there's a bunch of Nebraska kids in this class. There's 7 right now. There could be more. And they stayed true to the Huskers, even through the coaching change. Sledge was one of those guys. Gunnar Gatula, for goodness sakes, he's been committed since, I think, June of 2021 and stuck with it, everything. So these are guys who have a lot of pride, I think, in this program, who have followed it since they're little kids, and you want them to sort of be the guys in your program others look to, who are leaders and know what this program's supposed to be about.
Right from Iowa State's Twitter account. It looks like it says at Cyclone Football BC says bringing speed and bounce. This wide receiver has all the tools to excel in aims. It's got a good picture of Benny Nakoi. So this thing, listen, like when you're looking at these things, and regardless of who the player X is, and when it gets down to crunch time, are these the battles? Because remember, Nebraska historically hasn't really been on the positive side of these. Is this where does this matter for the perception of recruiting prowess over time, is to kind of like one score loss games, right, BC? Where do you always want to be in the hunt? Is that good in your opinion when it comes down to these final decisions?
Yeah, I mean, I think in a case like Benny, I mean, that was a tough hill to climb. When you come in, if you're Matt Rule and staff in early December, he's already committed elsewhere for a couple months. All you can do is put yourself in front of that prospect, lay it out as clearly as you can. This is how we develop guys. This is what we've done in the past. We can do it with you. And that's really all you can do at that point, and say, hey, come visit us, come learn more about us. We want you. We want to talk to you, and we want you in this program. And then you let the chips fall where they may. I think they did everything they could in Benny's case. But as you said earlier, Matt Campbell, this isn't his first rodeo, and he's got a lot on the line right now down in Ames and trying to get things going again. And he's done a good job in this cycle here in Nebraska. And you know full well, Damon, just like Iowa State, these programs that are surrounding Nebraska, they're going to come in here and they're going to try to take guys every cycle. They're going to act like they can do it just as well as Nebraska. It's a different world than I think it was 20 years ago. And everybody knows now there's a lot of talent in this state. And so you got to have your elbows out and you got to really recruit it hard if you're the Huskers, because nothing's a layup anymore.
Brian, as we look at the status of Cornelius, one of the more sought after portal prospects, Nebraska, they aggressively pursued the kid from Rhode Island and brought him in for even an official visit. But since that point, the competition has become a lot stiffer. You have Ohio State in the mix, Oregon, Tennessee. Is that becoming more unlikely, or would you still say that there is a strong possibility that Nebraska is high up on his list?
I think that one's more unlikely, last I heard. I thought Nebraska did a good job getting in on him early, and then just every big boy that you could imagine showed up at his block and wanted to get him. And so it's become a very tough recruitment. I sort of don't think they're going to get that one. I'm not sure if they're going to get Ben Scott either. I thought they put in a good effort there, but I don't know that he's going to end up with Nebraska either. That's sort of my last day prediction, I guess.
BC, when you take a look at what else is going on around the country nationally relative to the Big Ten, you have any takeaways? I mean, I know Bielema gets the big contract extension that's announced, and Illinois may have the most known, I guess, about them of the teams in the Big Ten West. Remember Purdue, new head coach, Wisconsin, new head coach, new offensive coordinator, Iowa, a little bit in limbo, but the majority that's all right as right now, all that staff intact. Minnesota gonna have a quarterback change. How are you feeling about the Big Ten in terms of recruiting as a whole right now?
It's gotten better. I mean, I think you're seeing more and more Big Ten teams that aren't Ohio State, Penn State, and Michigan that are in the hunt for some big-time players. I know Iowa lost a good one in a five-star lineman the other day, but they're still ranked
how about
sixth in
Proctor?
the Big Ten in recruiting.
Wowzer.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then Maryland's a good recruiting school now. I mean, they're fifth in the Big Ten and 24/7 Sports rankings. Michigan State's up there with Mel Tucker, so he's going to always put a good class together. It's just a matter if he can develop them. But I think there's now like 8 to 10 really good recruiting programs in the league that are going to be in the top 40 almost every year. So that's what you're dealing with around here. And Nebraska's going to go head-to-head against Rutgers for New Jersey guys. They're going to go head-to-head against Penn State and Ohio State for Philadelphia guys. It's going to get really interesting around here with this staff and some of their connections when you think about where those areas are.
Branch out even further here, and I don't want to get too far ahead because there is still a small window before UCLA and USC join the Big Ten. But what about the two quarterback recruits both of those programs got?
Yeah. I mean, they're going to all get those type of guys. They're going to get those skill guys. The question they're going to have to answer, and they need to start doing it, is can they get the guys in the trenches to hold up in this league? And I know USC is USC, but it's going to be interesting that first couple of years, I think, when they're in the Big Ten and the physicality of this league and how it wears on you into November. So they need to that's the area where they really need to stock up, is in the trenches and have those type of guys who can go toe to toe in this league. But there's no doubt that they are going to get some really good skilled guys every cycle. And there's also no doubt to me that this new Nebraska staff is going to hit California a lot more than we've seen recently. I'm not saying to get out your Calibraska t-shirts again. I'd rather you not. But I think Nebraska is going to hit the West Coast with some of the staff members they have again.
And we'll see what happens with wide receiver coaches in Texas, yay or nay, or kind of that development. But is that a part of the country, BC, since you bring it up, that you think would behoove Nebraska, or do you pit that against if they're having successes in other places, it would be secondary and not necessary?
I've always thought of California as secondary to Nebraska recruiting nowadays. It didn't used to be that way, but I think in the last 10 to 15 years, it's become that way. However, if you have certain staff members who are very well connected there, and I think Nebraska has a couple of guys, then you pick and choose there, and you fight some battles, and I think they will. But Texas for sure is going to be a place that this staff hits like nobody's business. And Matt Rule, when he was at Baylor, he came in as an outsider from the East Coast, and within several months, a lot of coaches down in those Texas high school circles loved him, and he really fit in well. So those connections haven't gone away, so there's no way Nebraska is not going to use them to every degree possible.
Brian, Nebraska ranks 44th in the composite recruiting rankings, and that came out just ahead of early National Signing Day yesterday. But, my question to you is this. Is that 44? Did that exceed expectations? Was that kind of right on the nose for expectation, or do you think people expected more than that?
I think in the future they'll want them to be like a top 25 class. But I also think there's an understanding around here about how much everything got flipped over 3 or 4 weeks ago, and you kind of had to start over in some cases. So there's going to be some grace with whatever their final ranking is. And I think more than anything, a lot of fans in this part are just focused on that development word. It's like, I've heard a lot about players in past recruiting cycles who have rated highly and this and that, but I haven't seen them develop. So whoever you get, whether this class is ranked 45th or 15th, I want to see some of these guys 2 or 3 years from now who are contributing, who at some point in their career are challenging to be all Big Ten type players. That's what this fan base wants more than anything. They've seen that there are other programs that, like Iowa, Wisconsin, that sometimes have rated lower in recruiting, but they've been able to get their guys to progress, and they've competed for division titles. And so I think that's what people are looking for here, is development more than anything.
Brian, you're the best, man. We appreciate your time. Thanks so much.
Thanks for getting up early with us, BC.
Thanks. Yep, thanks, guys.
That is Brian Christopherson, senior writer for Husker247.com. Damon, he said a lot of good things, but, what I wanted to touch on here before we end up talking to Maverick Noonan right about the 8:30 mark, we're in the spirit of the holidays, right? And, you put together a wish list of things that you would like to receive. But how about in Nebraska's case? If you compiled the Nebraska wish list, who would be at the top of your list right now in regards to the question marks?
Well, I think there's probably 2.
Because I have just one, but I'd be interested to hear your 2.
So, but one I think is more perception. For what I feel it does in terms of momentum. But I'll start with Cornelius, right? Because I'd like a little more stability along the offensive line, and I know that those guys are excited in that offensive line room about their offensive line coach coming back. I'd like a little more proven talent because I think that's a glaring need for this football team. And then I would like for them at least the perception is to win the Malachi Coleman battle. I don't know how that is going to come to fruition in terms of play, and there isn't a lot of tape out there in terms of but there is a lot of ability in terms of talent. So if they can get those 2 things to mesh over the long haul for the next 2 or 3 years, I think from a perception standpoint, that would create momentum. That may be more about the image than the actual practicality of it, but I think so. That's probably 1A to the 1 in terms of getting Cornelius.
Interesting that you said those two names. Those were the two names I had written down, except when I created my nice list and naughty list, Cornelius was on my naughty list for the reason of like I talked about with BC, the competition is so big and heavy now. And, I sit back and, I want to be completely transparent and say, okay, like let's not just dive right into the Kool-Aid. Cornelius wants to play for, a top 10 football program right away because he was playing at Rhode Island for the longest time. He got to a point to where his stock is now rising. Now he's going to be looking toward the NFL draft. Where do you go to do that? You go to one of the top 10 programs in the nation. It's just kind of obvious, and unfortunately, that's just the world we live in. On the other side, you mentioned Malachi Coleman. That was the name for me that is probably the number one wish right now. And, despite the trip to Colorado, I still think Nebraska has the leg up. We know Malachi is a big relationship guy. And from what I've heard, he's been that way his whole life.
At least that's what we've read through social media and his parents. And I mean, that's the image that's definitely portrayed.
Correct. Now, why wouldn't he stay in town then where the relationships are at its strongest? And I'm not talking just football here. I'm talking about family, friends, and community.
Yeah,
as someone who thrives off of relationships myself, I mean, that's why when I was looking for a new town to settle in, as people know, I'm not a native of Omaha or Lincoln or to Nebraska, but I moved to Iowa and then I moved to Nebraska, but I'm a St. Louis kid at heart. So for me, bouncing around, I know what it's like to be in an area where your relationships aren't very strong, and they are strong. When I was in Iowa, my relationships weren't that great with community. Now I had people up there that I created some with, and the various high school teams and coaches and players, like that's one thing, but it wasn't like those were my people. Mm-hmm. And now I come to Omaha and I've created such a family here. Yeah. And I finally found what I call a second home. So for me, that is so big for me too. It's just knowing my area, knowing my people. So when I look at Malachi here, I'm not sure what family or any relationship he has in Colorado, and we won't know that until he makes his announcement. But what I do know is he has a lot of people siding with them here in Lincoln, and I think that goes a long way with a kid like him.
Yeah, I would agree, and I know. Listen, I think if Nebraska fans took 100% truth serum, they don't love the kind of the extra and what kind of comes with this recruiting cycle for Malachi Coleman. But I do think they would trade that in a heartbeat to embrace one of their own from Lincoln East to say, hey, he's staying home and being able to cheer for him. So I think that's important and him being comfortable, because I think the downside to that is, I think for him, if we're being 100% honest, and I'm not afraid to say this, is I think there's a certain segment of the fan base that wants, there's a prove it aspect, right? Like, hey, you've garnered a ton of attention. You've got a lot of accolades. I want to actually see the production. So I think they have to think about that too, because that's pressure. And as I told you yesterday, and I always say, pressure either yields you diamonds or it busts pipes. You don't want to be a pipe buster in this deal. So I think that's why I make it 1A, because there's a little other that goes with that. And I think it's conversations that we have to have, because I think people want to see him thrive and be productive where the potential meets the expectations.
And I don't think there's the worry of failure in his mind at all.
There can't be. And I don't know him, so I'm speaking off the cuff there. I've never. I shook his hand at the Bellevue West Burke game, and I said hello, or Bellevue West and prep game, and so I don't know him, so I don't want to pretend to be in his head. I'm just telling you from the outside looking in how I see you have to be able to be successful at the Power 5 level. You got to be able to dial in.
And I'm with you. Because same thing. I could DB, whatever just came out of his mouth could come out of my mouth too in that regard. But I will say, if he does feel a little bit of pressure, maybe he doesn't stay home because he doesn't want to disappoint. Who knows? We'll hear his decision later on today.
45.
But we'll hear from Maverick Noonan next on Hail Varsity Radio.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 5 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
Hey, DB, what time is it?
It is 8:30.
Are you sure it's not noon? For Maverick Noonan?
You funny guy. You got me on that one too. Usually I can kind of see your wit coming, but that's actually
No, I could tell you weren't paying attention.
well, that's like 98% of the time. So you always have to kind of dial me in, but you called my name, so I knew I should probably
You should snap back to reality.
get it going. Get it going.
You were in a daze because you were trying to think about all the great questions you're about to ask our next guest.
I was in my feelings a little bit over Franco Harris, which we'll get to later as a diehard Steelers fan. But yeah,
Right.
I'm always excited to talk to this guy because I've watched him since he was just a little guy, which he hasn't been for a long time with that frame.
Maverick Noonan on the phone, Nebraska football edge rusher commit. Maverick, good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, are you a morning person?
50-50.
You got the best time out of any of our guests.
Yeah.
Hey, so I got to ask you, you sound like you're maybe on the move. What's the school doing for signing day with there being no school today? What kind of agreement did you guys come to for that?
Yeah, so it is kind of weird. It's not at the school, but we're actually having like a little get together at my house. So we're gonna have like all the coaches come over to my house. Cole Ballard is gonna sign at my house and sing with my twin brother. So
Oh, that is awesome. With Cole and Alec. But gosh, it must be nice. I'm gonna mess with your parents too. Like, I want to be able to have a place where I can just have the staff over too, and like have everybody have plenty of room when your mom's not trying to hustle me in ping pong or something, man. Like,
yeah.
And reminder, don't think I didn't see the pictures of the pool table or the ping pong table at your house when she was getting ready to kick my butt in Lincoln.
Yeah.
Mav, how's it been though for you, man? You're kind of different, obviously, right? Another legacy guy, and people handle that term differently. Caleb, he doesn't like it. He doesn't like for me to use it, so I don't.
Yeah.
Some people can embrace it because you want to do your own thing. Like, man, the Noonan name though with Danny and David, you handled it like a pro though, right? Like, I'm gonna say I'm gonna say good on your mom because I know that wasn't Danny.
Yeah, no, I'm kind of with Philip here. I mean, I don't like it, but I don't hate it. I mean, it's just there. Oh well. I don't care if you went there, but I mean, it's cool. But you know.
Well, do you use it as? Oh, my bad. Go ahead.
Oh, I just said that's not why I signed in today.
Yeah, right. Like, so was there? So the recruiting process, like, and you canceled some big visits late, right? And this is under the former staff. Was there a point with when the current staff was announced where we should have been like, one of the great ones may get away? Like, was that a thing?
No, not really. And I felt like they made me a priority from the start.
Sure did, man.
I mean, right when he got hired, you know, Coach Rule called me the same day. So, I don't know. I didn't really feel that. I mean, I was kind of more locked into the university than just, you know, Coach Frost and all those guys. So,
wait, the same day?
Yeah, the same day he got hired. He called me.
Wow,
that's the Matt Rule way.
Mav, you must be big time. That's awesome.
Hey, what do you like most about Matt Rule?
I don't know. I guess just like how he's really organized, a lot more organized than the last staff. He just seems like he's a really high tempo guy in practice. Can really develop players. So I like that about him.
Okay, so you said something that's interesting because we've heard a couple of guys reference this in terms of organization and kind of having a plan. And Andrew and I got into this yesterday because Andrew was like, man, people keep saying that. And I was like, well, it's kind of natural when you weren't as highly coveted, but now you were. So it's easy to say, oh, well, you know, this staff is better. But you're different. You were highly coveted by both staffs. I mean, I was told from like day one, you were a junior or going into your junior year, and it was, we've got to get this guy. You've been a priority for a while, but you still noticed a difference. What was it?
I guess they just pursued me from the start. I mean, like I said, he called me the first day he got hired, and I mean, Coach Knighton got out to my school, twice. Coach Rules got out to my school. We went to home visit. So wow. I just felt like I was a priority ever since he was hired.
And, to further that point, because I'm sure you wanted to be a Nebraska football player your entire life, with that being in your a huge part of your family, right? But like, at what point did you know you were going to play Nebraska football? Like, when did you have that realization yourself?
I mean, after I took all my official visits in June, I kind of compared them all. I just felt like that was the best place, and I mean, Nebraska has the best fans in the country, so I mean, I felt like it was a good decision.
Mav, it was interesting for you because your high school team was really, really good, right? I mean, yeah, Little Nebraska, you've got Ballard, just a ton of really good players. Bustard. I mean, you had a ton. You had a goal of trying to win a state championship, and you wanted to stay focused. How difficult or easy, maybe for you, because you're always dialed in, was it to separate recruiting from, man, I'm trying to win a state championship?
Pretty easy for me. I mean, I'd always prioritize our team, so I mean, it wasn't too difficult for me, to be honest.
Hey, when you talked a little bit earlier about your family and the legacy that you kind of fall under that trickles down to you, obviously your family has a strong rooting interest for the Nebraska Cornhuskers, but as you were growing up rooting for this team too, and I don't really know if you hit on this point exactly, so I'm going to ask it again just to for my own sanity, reassure my own brain. But what added pressure did you feel, or did you feel any added pressure from your own family roots, or was this just something that you wanted to do for a long time?
I didn't really have any pressure to go anywhere specifically. I mean, Nebraska was probably always my first choice. They were the first ones to offer me. So, but no, I didn't feel any pressure towards going anywhere. I just felt like it was the best place for me after I went to all my visits. So and then also they got fans too, which is great. So
one of the things that I always tell people that I look for, just whether it's because I played or coaching in high school, I always think you have to find guys that you don't have to babysit, because the rigor of Power 5 Division I football is very difficult. And I felt like from day one, even when I said you were tops in the class a year ago, when it wasn't as popular to say, I said, Mav's a guy that I just don't think you have to babysit. He likes to work out. He's a grinder. He's competitive. And then during like unofficials or early junior days, like I would be in Lincoln, and twice, you just happen to be there watching film or on a weekend studying. You're going in, you're in your senior year, but you're still a film and football rat. Like, where did that come from? Because those are things that people don't know that I think they should know, that give you a glimpse into your personality.
Yeah, I mean, I love film. I mean, one thing that I remember specifically, I'm always scouting out opponents, right? Seeing tells, offensive linemen. So we were down in GI. And it was like I don't remember what the play was, but I knew it was a pass just because of my film studies. And I called it out, and then all the linemen were like super confused. I got a sack after that play, and then all the linemen were super confused. And that's what I told them how I figured it out and everything. That was probably the funniest thing on this year. But that was funny.
Hey, Maverick, my last thing for you. You're one of 6 football recruits in the top 11 of Nebraska committing to play for the hometown team. What has this day been like for you? How surreal of a day has this been?
pretty wild. I mean, I have my signing ceremony here in about, half an hour. So it's pretty exciting.
Mav, I got to ask, just because I love your family and both your parents will tell you, I've been picking their brains for the last couple of years about coaching twins or parenting twins and letting you guys do your own thing. How proud of you are you of Alec and the fact that you guys get to be together today doing two different sports?
Yeah, I mean, he's a great twin. I couldn't ask for anything more. Just being able to play college athletics is a huge accomplishment. So, yeah, I'm very proud of him.
Maverick, we appreciate your time, man. Thanks so much for hopping on the show.
Thanks, Mav.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Congrats.
Yeah, absolutely. Congratulations. We will hopefully talk to you again soon. But coming up next, we wrap things up and put a bow on the year by playing Dog Eat Dog versus DB. That's next.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
And we are back as we wind down the show. Coffee and Cream in the Morning on Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Currency. I want to first start off by saying this. This will be our last show of the year. We will be back. What's the date? January 2nd, January 3rd. What's that Monday, DB?
I believe it is the 2nd. I'm going to look right now. But remember, we are doing Benning Bites and
Morning Dump next week.
Dump next week.
Yes. So podcasts will still be there and we will still live there. You can go check those out at Hurrdat Sports.
That would be the Monday the 2nd.
Monday the 2nd, we will be back. So we will say Happy New Year to you the next time that we are on the air.
Actually, it's January 3rd. It's January 3rd because we have that day off.
There it is. So, all right, we're there. We're there.
Hopefully,
January 3rd.
That's the big day too, I hope.
You know what? Hey, we've got some big plans, DB.
In a big world or house or whatever that song is. I don't know. That's you guys. I don't know that.
Big house. Is that like the Christian song?
Yeah. Is that
lots and lots of rooms?
Is that what it was?
I don't know. There's probably a bunch of big house songs.
Big house.
Hey, are you giving a touchdown signal or what's that there?
Well, on the heels of the Steelers getting ready to beat the Raiders.
I know. How about that?
That was my
immaculate 50th anniversary of it.
Yeah, I understand. And on Christmas Eve, if you don't want to be friends for about 4 hours, that's fine. Like we don't.
You want me to come over?
Yeah, well, you can. I mean, I'll be doing absolutely nothing. Maybe I'll be finished wrapping gifts. I'll probably be deciding between crab clusters, rib roast.
Can I come to your place?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Can I bring the girlfriend? She hates football, so I'm going to be annoying that about the immaculate reception. She's going to be annoyed about football. You would just lose your mind.
Is she okay with the two little dogs, Buddha and Biggie?
Oh, that she would probably just love that.
Okay, Buddha's a little cuddler now. He's got some commitment issues, man. He stays connected.
But you were talking about Franco, though.
Yeah, that's tough for your guy. And you know what's weird? I feel a little guilt over this, Drew Down, because as a diehard Steeler, he wasn't my favorite to watch run, but I admired so much of what he meant to that franchise because he was the spokesperson. And first and foremost, Andrew, he is my mom's favorite NFL player.
That's all that matters.
Not named Warren Moon. She texts me.
So his second favorite player.
Not named Warren Moon. She texted me this morning, Andrew, my mom, and she said, sad day with the Matt Rule emoji, the sad face. Although this one I could figure out. Franco Harris died. As if it's not my job, like to follow sports and as a Steelers guy. But I mean, that just
shows the impact.
Yeah, because in our household, my dad used to scout for the Dallas Cowboys in his former life, and everybody in my family outside of me, my brother was a Cowboys fan, my sister Kim is a Cowboys fan, my dad was a Cowboys fan, and as a itty bitty salmon, if you will, I'm swimming upstream. I'm like, well, who don't the Cowboys like? Well, they don't like the Steelers. So I'm just a little kid, and we're getting ready to watch the Super Bowl with some homemade salami, cheese, and crackers, and some liverwurst pate, some party in our downstairs. And I'm watching the Cowboys Steelers, and I said, you know what? I'm a Steelers guy, and it was all about Franco Harris and that football team. So
was that the number one team at that time that the Cowboys didn't like was the Steelers?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, I'm not a historian from the 70s, but I know that they had their. I mean, I don't think Denver was a rival. I mean, they're in the Washington.
I mean, you could have been a Washington fan. That's what I'm getting towards.
No, I didn't see them on television. I mean, the Steelers were the first
Giants
team.
fan.
The Steelers were the first team that I saw.
That makes sense.
Play against Dallas, and that was the team that I gravitated towards. It was the first jersey I ever owned. Was a Steelers jersey. I wore the words off of my Terry Bradshaw jersey. And as I got older, like 48, like today, I like Terry Bradshaw a lot less than I did as when I was like 5 or 6.
So
right?
Terry Bradshaw, Louisiana Tech guy, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So when I covered Morningside down in Grambling, Louisiana for the national championship game, I think it was 2019. I think that's right.
Fantastic program.
And
Goodness,
we went to a museum down there, and there was a whole like entire hallway dedicated to Terry Bradshaw and all of his Louisiana Tech gear. And there were old highlights of him on a television that you could still see the static popping up on. It was pretty incredible.
Yeah. So, and a lot of me as a kid, there's still a little of me today, right? I've matured in some other areas, not a ton, but I remember like in grade school, I would always draw helmets and stuff, and I was drawing the Steelers. And I remember when Bradshaw hurt his elbow, this was probably in like, I don't know, it was in like 2nd or 3rd grade. So it had to be like 81 or 82. And he was going to come back, and then he hurt his elbow. And it was in the game, and he came out, I think. And I don't remember the Steelers being the same for a little while. Like, they weren't as good. And Andrew, I'm so immature. I remember kind of being mad at Bradshaw. Because you're a kid and you're thinking it's an elbow, right? Like, you're good. Like, just, I don't know, do something. Like, put some dirt on it.
With your other hand.
My dad would say spit. Or take some Robitussin, right? That's what everybody
That's it.
like me did to feel better. It's like, what's wrong with you? Why don't you just play? You were just out there, right? Because you don't really understand. And so I kind of held that against him. And then when they couldn't find quarterbacks for a while, right, I had to go through the Stouts and the Woodleys and the Malones, and which is funny because I'm friends with Mark Malone today, which is bizarro world. I didn't have the heart to say I couldn't really cheer for him as a quarterback, but they didn't really find one again until Roethlisberger. So it's just like, I think of what Franco Harris meant to that franchise and the immaculate reception, and did he catch? Shane and I have argued about. I'm not going to rehash it, Shane. Don't worry. Shane and I have gone round and round
just
about
wait
this.
until the 24th.
At least twice a year, it comes up between Shane and I. And I think for just today, Shane, you should let me
lament.
Yeah, and let you know that was absolutely a catch, and you have nothing to be mad about. And your franchise was forever doomed.
You know, the interesting thing about Franco
about
is,
that.
well, yeah, I'm
You're not sorry.
Yes, sorry, not sorry.
You know, the interesting thing about Franco is he's coming out of a decade, and it's almost
Dave Franco
Harris. He's coming out of a decade to where, unlike now, where the quarterback is the most popular guy on the team, you had the running back, you maybe even had a wide receiver be the most popular guy on the team.
Yeah.
You could even had a defensive guy. I mean, it was a decade like you're not going to see again.
And it's so weird how I was conditioned. And our good friend, my cracks historian, Severe, it was 82. In the 82 season and played in the playoffs against the Jets. He's something else, man. I don't know if he Googled that or what, but Severe says he's got a sickness, man. That dude. So, you know what I kind of related it to, though, is watching Franco Harris, is I remember this back and forth, and this is way a long time ago, Drew Down, but Jarvis Redwine was a guy that I liked. And I just remember, like, some Nebraska fans not really embracing Jarvis Redwine because they didn't like how either, and I can't remember exactly, it was something about him running out of bounds or not going into contact or whatever. And so I got it ingrained in my head that wasn't a good thing. Like, if you just weren't trying to like run over guys and whatever, then like it wasn't about, you weren't a good running back. And I never saw like Frank. I thought he was like a big guy. When I was a kid, he reminded me of like a big back, but he always kind of just was dancing and kind of going out of bounds. And so I was like, I don't know, like, is this how you're supposed to run? Like, I'm in those formative years,
right,
where I don't know like what's good, what I like, what I don't like. I'm kind of listening to adults around me, and we'd sit at the barbershop for 8 hours because there weren't appointments back then, and people would just argue. And so that kind of formed my opinion as a kid. And I look back, he may have been a better runner than I actually think, because he did string together. He probably had 5 or 6 good quality years, 4, I think, where he was like really good. But the Steelers were such an interesting franchise back then, because a lot of their guys, when you look at their numbers, Stallworth and Swan, they don't look Hall of Fame-ish, but they were very productive in crunch time. And it was in an era where it was hard to get vertical in the passing game outside of a couple of teams. So I kind of I give them their credit, even though aesthetically it didn't really fit my eye.
Hey, I'm so happy though you have Shane to, reminisce on the old days.
Yeah, he's so mad at me right now. It's like, he's like, well, we'll talk about it on Christmas Eve. He texted me.
Yeah,
I just want to win. Like, it's must win for the Steelers to have a chance to keep Tomlin's streak of 500 or better, like, intact, man. So,
I'll see you on the 24th.
Wow.
Hey, Christmas Eve presents a great slate of sporting events.
Was that passive aggressive?
It was.
No, it was aggressive passive.
This dude, man. Glad we got a chance to talk to young people signing on signing day, because that'll kind of be the mood setter, because I'm kind of mad at Shane now, Drew.
Well, you know what? I'll tell you what, though. I'm super excited for all of these various recruits. I am. I mean, kudos to them on achieving their goal.
Yeah, and how about just being able to have coaches come to your house and sign there?
Right.
You and I, you think in the places we live combined, we could have 15, 20 people over. Hey, come to the signing party.
Right.
But hey, listen, with the weather, be safe out there. Appreciate you schools making accommodations for the kiddos, whatever it is that they do, man. Enjoy the day.
And we appreciate you joining us here. If you want to catch more, go to Morning Dump next. That's where we're playing trivia with DB.